Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leadership Lunch Chat with myself, Amy Vetter, and my friend Jen Wilson. We're happy to be back this week. We've had to take a couple week hiatus, which is probably going to happen as we go through our busy season coming up in the next few months. So we want to take advantage of the time that we have this week to talk about things that are on our mind. And Jen, did you want to get started with today's topic?
Yes, sure, Amy, happy to do it. So, Amy and I thought that we would talk about what it takes from a leadership perspective, so mindset and behavior, what it takes to create a truly sustainable organization that can go on without you, to create a legacy business that you leave behind. And, it goes on and it doesn't have to be sold and it doesn't necessarily need a big PE infusion. It instead is thriving and vibrant, and what it takes for us as leaders to do that. And so that's what we're gonna, explore, and we're gonna try to think of the big leadership behaviors. This isn't a to-do list like the tactics that you might employ. It's more like, who do I have to be to make it happen? And so one of the big things that Amy and I agree on and talk about a lot with each other and with you all and with other audiences is this idea of putting aside selfish interest and recognizing that part of what I have to do to create a sustainable organization is I have to be generous. And I have to say, gosh, I can't take every dime out of the business in comp, and I can't take the highest buyout that's going to put the young people in a really poor position of earning for a number of years while I take the last of the milk from the cow. And I'm not going to try to keep letting it be my star vehicle. I have to put aside my selfish interest, which is so stinking hard. So maybe you want to say a little bit about that, Amy.
Yeah, so we see this in so many areas, and one of them that comes to my mind in so many recent conversations is the leaders in the firm that aren't even partners that want to invest in change and can't get that change through because the purse strings are being held for this reason of partner comp. And as a business owner, it is really important, and Jen and I are both business owners, so we know how hard this is to make these decisions. But a lot of times, Jen and I have to go without in order to invest in our own companies for the next level of great, right? That we don't always get to keep our comp at a streamlined compensation because we're looking to the future of the business. We're looking to the people that we protect that have invested in our purpose and the things that we are doing out in the world so that they have jobs and they can keep growing and they can be future leaders in our businesses. And it is no different with an accounting firm. The problem is many accounting firms are set up where it is an eat what you kill, even if you say it's not. At the end of the day, the calculation is this is how much comp and then everything else, instead of saying how much investment does the business need this year for future growth? And what do we need to do to sacrifice in order to make sure that the future of our business survives and we don't have to go to private equity or we don't have to go to a bailout? That we are making sure that our corporation, whether you call it a partnership or not, our business is healthy and strong into the future. Even if today you're bringing in a ton of money because, things are busy, that doesn't mean that you're set up for the future to make sure that the business can grow and scale and be there even without you.
For sure. Gosh, there was a ton in that, Amy. A ton. And so I'm just going to start by saying, like, I kind of look like the growth of a business, the growth of my business, which turns 23 on Saturday, as sort of an inchworm. And there are moments when we don't have enough capacity and we don't have enough infrastructure and we're kind of strung out or stretched out. We're the long part of the worm, if you will. And at that time, as an owner, I can make a decent amount of money. But my people are hurting. We all are. We get to a place of hurting where we're like, man, we need more people. We need more help. We need more of this or that. And then you've got to make investments, and you have to. And right now, we know as there's a ton of investments, technology investments we have to make as firm leaders. We have to make capacity investments. We need to really double down on this idea of adding non-CPAs to the work stream. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. You've been enjoying this incredible time of record growth and record profitability. Every firm I talk to, that's what they're saying to me. And I'm like, awesome, except your people are dying, so they're not going to hang for that, so we need to invest. And then you double down in investments, and owners make less. And I'm going to tell you that I know that some firms, that owners make less. Never, never, so come on, and then here's another one. Okay. So this is selfishness and the need to set aside selfish interest and recognize it and call it out. And so I'm going to tie generosity and selflessness, willingness to put self aside, to courage. I want to tie them to courage for a minute, because not every person in a firm that's owning and leading is selfish, super selfish, and trying to milk the cow with both hands. There's a lot of generous leaders out there. We meet them all the time. And frankly, they give us hope. They're the reason we keep getting up every day. And yet they're trapped often in firms and leadership teams with some selfish people, some super selfish people. And those people have been getting away with selfishness for a long time. And it isn't called out. It isn't discussed. They borderline bullies, well, if you do that, then I'm going to take my marbles and leave, or whatever it is, this idea that there are what I'm going to call bad actors on the team that refuse to put aside selfish interest, but nobody addresses that. Mm-hmm. And so another thing in order to have a sustainable business is the courage to face the real issues, which often are people issues. They're people issues, bad clients, bad actors on the leadership team, poor performers in key positions, people that wear people out. So I think to have a sustainable business, you got to have courage.
Yeah, I love that. I love that piece of it. I think is what is missing so much, because there's nothing worse than people in your firm seeing the things that could be better and them having the courage to speak up and want to take the initiative to make the change, and then they're quickly squashed. And there's nothing more soul crushing than that, than wanting to do something for a business that is not even yours. You just believe in the business. The people that ultimately profit off of those changes eventually will be the owners of that business, right? And so it is important that we don't crush the ideas that are happening in the business, and we do set aside money for the future research every single year. So there should be a bucket in your budget of what you need to test every single year, that you can never just sit back and say things are great, because things won't be great one year. And then all of a sudden, the kind of income that you're used to, you're going to have to cut, but then it's too late to turn the barge because the available cash isn't there. If you deplete the cash at the end of every year as payouts without putting money aside for future investment, there's no way to make sure that you can do the right things for your business. And so it's really important as leaders to really think about your business as a corporation. In a corporation, there'd be a CEO, there'd be vice presidents of different service lines, and they're working on the business, not just in it. And they're empowering their people to do the work that they need to do. They're not doing the work. They're making the strategic decisions. They're making the high level decisions that need to be made. And then they are coaching and empowering their people to execute on those decisions. And one of the things that is a real struggle in the firms that we work with is that the leaders are still trying to do the work at the same time as run a business. And there has to be the right allocation of time of what you're working on versus in, so that you're constantly looking in the future and you're building that leadership capability within the system to keep growing those people.
I love it. And so what I just heard is a third word. So generosity, courage, and I just heard leverage. I heard leverage in that. Like running a corporate business requires that I step back and no longer be the doer, but and maybe I'm not even going to be part of the senior leadership team, this management team that you've just described. But I'm going to have to subordinate ego and do what they have decided. And I'm going to have to stop working in the business and serving clients directly and having a massive book of business, which I keep selfishly so I can throw it around as weight to get more money and have power. So I have to give all that up so I can help lead this thing forward, lead it to the sustainable place. And that means I leverage the talent and I push work down, period. I mean, there's no other way around it. And let go.
Well, and I just want to pause there because what you just said is really important around power, is redefining power.
Yes.
Because when we're talking about being a generous leader and getting rid of our selfish interests, part of doing that is stepping back as a leadership team and saying, who's a really good manager and who's a really good subject matter expert? Not everybody has to be the same thing, right? Like you're coming up with your roles in your business and deciding who's the best fit. But just because you're a subject matter expert and you've got a higher billable number over your head does not give you more power than a manager that's working on the business to drive change and growth in the business. So that is a really big mindset change that needs to happen at the leadership level, is to redefine what it means of the power balance in the organization.
I love it. And I do. And really what that's all about there is we're going to start valuing what we call future capacity behaviors, not current production. Right now, there's this whole power thing called I bill a lot. I bill and collect a lot, or whatever. Okay, good. But if you get hit by a bus, that's gone. That evaporates. The bill and collect model, it evaporates unless somebody steps in your shoes and then you were kind of easily exchanged. So, the manager that you just described, Amy, they're investing in the future capacity of the business, the future sustainability of the business. And future capacity behaviors are things like practice development. And I don't mean business development. I mean creating new practice areas, but also business development is a future capacity behavior. So is people development, the one super, secret superpower that some people have to develop people, to attract them, to Velcro them, to cause them to get better and learn and grow and thrive and step up and continue to, take on more. That's a superpower of people that can develop people. And the more of that you can develop and the more people you could Pied Piper to the firm and keep there and have them take over material things, the more that firm is worth. Firms aren't worth very much right now if they don't have a bench. They're not worth much if they don't have a bench. Nobody wants to take a bunch of
buying. They're buying the talent.
Whatever you have, and most people don't have enough of it, so.
But they don't even care about the clients half the time because they've got plenty of clients. There's been plenty of mergers I've seen that it isn't even about the clients, it's about acquiring staff. And so it's really important that you're able to sustain, because you'd be surprised what the value is of that book of business that everyone thinks is so valuable.
I'd love to flip that power structure on its head and say, and the other thing I just want to say, I'm going to say a quick aside that I just keep observing here in our profession. And nobody's been saying it. So I'm going to say it. It's a little obnoxious, but right now, developing new business for a firm is like shooting fish in a barrel. You are not special if you can go out and sell right now. I'm sorry. You're not, because every client in the whole world needs more from us, and all these prospects need help, and clients are getting fired from bigger firms and they're raining down on us, and we could just stand around with a bucket and catch clients. No, I mean it. So firms that are like, wow, he's a big business developer. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe if he's been that 30 years, great. But if you're a big business developer right now, that's not actually future capacity behavior, because listen to this, selling a bunch of stuff we don't have the capacity to serve is irresponsible. And it's just going to run people right out the door. So, that's another thing. I'm a big biller and I'm a big business developer. Awesome. Firm can't sustain right now with those two behaviors. Sorry. All we can do is those who organize our troops, and cause them to be more efficient, those who develop our people to cause them to be able to do more with less and to be better serving clients, those that attract people to the organization and cause them to come and stay, those that are implementing big initiatives to implement cool new technology that strips out lots of steps. Those are the people that are worth a fortune. And those are the people I want at the top of the pyramid right now. I want their voices to be the loudest. And if you want to have a sustainable firm, what Amy's pointing out is you flip the model. You stop thinking that the most powerful people are those that do the things that were powerful yesteryear. What's the value in this market? We've got to value this market's behaviors, not the one we wish we had, not the one we used to have.
Well, and I think it's really important in this process to be really honest about what you enjoy doing. So what I've seen in some firms is people hold on to titles, in the executive committee or even as a managing partner, when that really isn't your passion. It was something that you wanted to achieve. Maybe you didn't know what it was going to be, but it pulls you away from the client work that you really enjoy. And it's really important that you have defined job descriptions in these leadership positions, because it isn't as much about the client work anymore and giving attention to the firm. I listened to this podcast with Jay Shetty, and he was talking about when he was becoming a monk, that one of the things people go wrong is they go and look at a role. And so maybe as a younger person, you're like, I want to be managing partner one day. But I never actually looked at the process of what it means to be a managing partner. So when he started learning to become a monk, and you're going to bed at 9 o'clock and getting up at 1 a.m. and then studying and then doing a couple hours of meditation and then studying again and then, doing your chore, all of these things that he had no idea was behind when he looked at a monk and was like, wow,
the job of monk.
I want to be a monk. And so I think many of us have done that in our careers, where we look at a job and we're like, wow, when we get there, that's it. That's the thing that's going to make me happy. And it's really important when we get in those roles, or before we get into those roles, study it, understand what that role really is. And if you're in it and you realize from a selfish interest perspective and being generous that I am not the right person for this role, because I do need to give up the things that I love the most. And I don't actually love being in firm operations the most and doing strategic decisions and all of those things that have to do with the corporate side of a business versus doing the client work. It's really important that we don't put power definition around those roles of thinking, if I let that go, I will be less powerful. It's really important that we define what's important for us and what's our best use to an organization.
Oh man, that's a whole leadership lunch chat. And because the flip side of that, where you are, is we also have to recognize that we need to define roles that the entity needs at this stage in the entity's life. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I might have become the managing partner 8 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever, but back then the role was a certain way, but life has changed. We're bigger, probably. We have bigger problems. The market certainly changed dramatically. what does the organization need from each of these roles? And am I still the right person to do it? And the answer is commonly no, by the way. I mean, we help firms and try to beg firms to move people out of key positions all the time because they've made up what the position is to match what they feel like doing instead of having the position be what the firm needs it to be, and then making sure the right person is in there, or even searching outside if necessary.
And it also doesn't matter what your age is.
No.
It could be a mid-30s person that has the right skill set, for
100%.
a leadership position. It does not necessarily need to be the oldest partner that's been there, right?
Or even a partner.
Right.
Exactly. Service line leaders, we're like, hey, man, they have to have deference. People will have to defer to them. People will have to empower them and respect them. But the bottom line is we don't care what level they are or what age they are. And frankly, in this marketplace, they ought to be next gen if we can, because the way we did it, we teach a session called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. We've been teaching it for several years now. Pretty much all the stuff that most of us grew up with in public accounting from a business model perspective isn't valid in this marketplace. Mm-hmm. So having people like sitting in those roles, trying to run this thing using an antiquated model that does not work and that young people are utterly unattracted to is a mistake. So sustainable business, you want to run one? Stop trying to hold on to the title. And stop trying to make the title be what you like to do, or in some respects, we come in and we find absentee leaders. They're barely working. They're retired in place. They're milking the cow with both hands and barely contributing and holding the title and all the responsibility and choking out change. And I'm sorry, but that's not how you build a sustainable business. Then they're shocked later when they think, gosh, I might have to sell it. No kidding. You killed it.
Yeah.
And I know that this is offensive, but I think that that's what you do when you sell it. You've decided your problems are bigger than you can solve. Mm-hmm. And so you have had a failure to carry it forward because of your management of that business. You got it to this place where you can't keep it going. And that may sound mean, and I'm sorry for all of you who have merged recently, but that's the truth. You're moving your problems to someplace else, hoping they're going to solve them. And so I guess I have to be generous enough, and I have to be courageous enough, and I have to be willing to change and give up power and create new power paradigms in order to sustain. And if I don't want to do those things, I better start figuring out how to get my team ready to go carry a new flag with a new logo and a new name. Sad.
With that. Happy Friday.
Hashtag sad. So I don't have any opinions on this. Yeah. And I'm sure I made some new friends with that as well.
Yeah. Well, we just want to thank you for tuning in when we're running these leadership lunch chats. It's always good to process a lot of the things that we're seeing out there, and we're out there to answer your questions. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on social media and let us know what you'd like us to talk about as well. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.